In this module, we are going to discuss about kingdom fungi. Okay, kingdom fungi. Okay, kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi. Okay, if we see fungi, okay, they appear like this. For example, okay, all these three types of organisms, they are fungi. Okay, what is this? This is Aspergillus, and this is Penicillium, and this is Agaricus. So these three are fungi. These three organisms are fungi, and we know that fungi are heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms. Okay, if we see their features, they are fungi are heterotrophic. They depend upon others for food because they cannot synthesize. Okay, heterotrophic and eukaryotic organisms. Okay, fungi are heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms. So you might be knowing that in previous classes I have told you about eukaryotic organisms. Eukaryotic organisms means they have membrane bound cell organelles. Okay, membrane bound cell organelles including a membrane bound distinct nucleus too. So they have membrane bound cell organelles along with a distinct nucleus. Okay, whereas prokaryotes, they do not have a membrane bound organelles along with distinct nucleus, whereas eukaryotes, they have. So fungi, they have membrane bound organelles. That's why they are placed under eukaryotic organisms. Okay, they are heterotrophic and eukaryotic organisms. Okay, if they are heterotrophic organisms, what kind of mode of nutrition they have? They have saprophytic mode of nutrition. They depend upon dead and decay matter, right? They depend upon dead and decay matter. Okay, dead and decay matter for their food. That's why they are also known as saprotrophs. Okay, their mode of nutrition is saprophytic mode of nutrition. So they are saprotrophs. They depend upon dead and decay matter. And here one more interesting point is that, okay, what is that? At certain stage, okay, at certain stage of their life, okay, at certain stage of their life, they can become multicellular organism. Okay, so they have the ability to become multicellular organisms. Okay, at certain stage of their life, they can become what? Multicellular organisms. So this is very important, interesting point, isn't it? At certain stage of their life, they can become what? Multicellular organisms. Okay, so this is the feature. This is the common feature that fungi shows. Okay, this is the common feature. Okay, so these are the important points. Okay, and they are also grouped under plants. But they cannot undergo photosynthesis. Because they lack chlorophyll. Okay, so they cannot undergo photosynthesis. So they also see all organisms, those who have cell wall, we consider them as they undergo photosynthesis, isn't it? But these fungi, they have cell wall, still they do not undergo photosynthesis. They cannot synthesize their food. Why? Because their cell wall is made up of different, okay, different other than cellulose. What is that? Their cell wall is made up of a complex sugar, or a complex tough sugar known as chitin. Okay, so they have cell wall. They have cell wall, and their cell wall is made up of a sugar, made up of a sugar complex known as chitin. Okay, known as chitin. Known as chitin. Chitin is the component of cell wall for the fungi, whereas for plants it is cellulose. For plants it is cellulose. That's why they undergo what? Photosynthesis. So cell wall of this fungi is chitin. Okay, what is chitin? It is a complex sugar. It is a complex sugar. Okay, so some of the fungi also live along with algae. Okay, some of the fungi, they have association with association with algae, and they form what? Lichens. They form lichens. Okay, so some fungi, they live together with algae and they form what? Lichens. They form lichens. That means lichen is what? Simply lichen is a combination of fungi as well as algae, isn't it? Fungi lives with association with algae. Algae in the sense blue green algae. Blue green algae. By this name you might be understanding that blue green, that means they undergo photosynthesis, isn't it? Blue green algae. And this blue green algae is also known as cyanobacteria. Okay, so they are in association. Fungi is living along with algae and they are having a mutual relationship. They have a mutual relationship known as symbiotic relationship. What is that? It is symbiotic relationship. Okay, symbiotic relationship. They are living together and they have the mutual relationship. Okay, they cannot harm each other. That is mutual relationship, and we call them as symbiotic relationship. Okay, in certain period of time, this fungi will provide all the organic material, and this algae undergoes photosynthesis because this is blue green algae and it is known as cyanobacteria. It has what? Chlorophyll. So they undergo photosynthesis. Fungi will provide organic matter for photosynthesis, and this algae will undergo photosynthesis, and in turn this fungi provides organic matter and this algae will provide the food after photosynthesis. So both they are having relationship, and that relationship we call as symbiotic relationship. Okay, so some of the fungi, they live along with algae, and that term is known as what? Lichens. That term is known as lichens. Okay, so this is also one of the characteristic of algae. Okay, so this is another feature of fungi. Okay, lichen is another feature of fungi. Fungi cannot live alone, it lives with algae. Okay, this is another feature, and you might be familiar that lichens are slow in growing. Okay, they are slow growing large spaces. Lichens are slow growing large patches. They are slow growing large patches. Okay, found on where they are found? They are found on the bark of tree. On the bark of tree. Okay, they are found on the bark of tree. Okay, where they grow, lichens they grow on the bark of tree. Okay, and they are slow growing large patches. Lichens are slow growing large patches. So you might have seen all these lichens. Okay, so these are the common features that fungi shows. Okay, that fungi will show. Okay, so far we discussed the kingdom fungi and we have seen some of the features. Now we are going to look again the flowchart of the five kingdom classification given by Aristotle. Okay, we will discuss in chart. Okay, so organisms were divided into two broad categories. Okay, they are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, organisms were divided into two broad categories. They are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, prokaryotes means organism that do not possess membrane-bound organelles and they do not have distinct nucleus. Whereas eukaryotes, they have membrane-bound organelles as well as a distinct nucleus. Again, so organisms were divided into two broad categories. They are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay. Now what I told you, prokaryotes are the organisms which do not have membrane bound organelles. Okay, they do not have membrane bound organelles including nucleus. Okay, these eukaryotes, whereas these eukaryotes, they have membrane bound organelles. They have membrane bound organelles. They have membrane bound organelles along with a distinct nucleus. Okay, and further, these prokaryotes were divided into unicellular organisms. They were unicellular. Okay, unicellular. That means they have a single cell. They are made up of a single cell. This organism contains only one cell. Okay, unicellular means single cell. Okay, unicellular means single cell. That's why under this, okay, organism that have prokaryotes, that have prokaryotic nature and they are having only one cell, they called as Monera. Those organisms were known as Monera. Okay, they were Monera. And further this prokaryotic organism were further divided into two broad categories. Okay, so these eukaryotes, again it was further divided into two categories. Okay, they were unicellular as well as multicellular. Okay, they were divided again into two categories. They are unicellular and multicellular. Okay, unicellular organism as well as multicellular organism. Uni means single, multi means many. Okay, uni means single. Here I have written right. Here multi means many. Multicellular means they have many cells. Okay, they have many cells. Okay, organisms were divided into two broad categories, right? They are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, and this prokaryotes, they have single cell. That's why they called Monera. They have unicellular and they are known as Monera. And these eukaryotes again further divided into unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms, that means they have many cells. This organism is made up of many cells, and this unicellular organism again was grouped as protein. Okay, so here it is Protista. We have discussed in previous classes about kingdom Monera and kingdom Protista, right? So Protista are nothing but they are made up of single cell and they are eukaryotes. That means they have membrane bound organelles. Though they are made up of single cell, they have membrane bound organelles. Okay, that's why they are grouped under Protista. Organisms that have membrane bound organelles and made up of single cells, they are grouped under Protista. And this multicellular organism again further divided based on the cell wall. Okay, so organisms having cell wall, that means with cell wall and without cell wall. Okay, with cell wall and without cell wall. Organisms were divided again based on the cell wall. Okay, organisms that were having cell wall and without cell wall. So organisms that were having cell wall are again divided into two types: organisms that undergo photosynthesis and organisms that do not undergo photosynthesis. So here organisms that undergo photosynthesis, and organisms that do. So organisms that perform photosynthesis, and organisms that do not perform photosynthesis. Okay, so here multicellular organism, again it was divided into organisms that were with cell wall and without cell wall. Okay, so with cell wall again divided into two types that can undergo photosynthesis or perform photosynthesis, and again the next one, they do not undergo photosynthesis. Here for example, organisms that undergo photosynthesis, all we group them under Plantae. Okay, we group them under Plantae, kingdom Plantae, and with cell wall but they do not undergo photosynthesis or do not perform photosynthesis, we group them under Fungi, kingdom Fungi. Okay, kingdom Fungi. So we have completed so far with kingdom Fungi, isn't it? And this is the 5 kingdom classification system with the flowchart. Okay, with the flowchart, and we have completed up to fungi. And next class we will see about kingdom Plantae and what are the subgroups of Plantae. Okay, and here organism without cell wall is nothing but they are Animalia. Animals, they do not have cell wall. Okay, animals that do not have cell wall, so they do not undergo photosynthesis. Their mode of nutrition is heterotrophic. They depend upon others for food, isn't it? So they do not have cell wall. Okay, so they do not have cell wall. We group as Animalia. We group animals under this. Okay, once again let us have a quick view. Organisms were divided again into two broad categories. Okay, based on the membrane bound organelles. Okay, which organisms they do not have a membrane bound organelles are grouped under prokaryotes, and organisms that have a membrane bound organelles, they are grouped under eukaryotes. Again these eukaryotes were divided into two broad categories. They are unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular means they have a single cell, and multicellular means they are made up of many cells. And these multicellular organisms are again divided into two categories: with cell wall and without cell wall. Organisms with cell wall, they have the tendency to undergo photosynthesis, even they do not have the tendency to undergo photosynthesis. So organisms that can do photosynthesis, okay, they are grouped under plantae, and organisms that do not undergo photosynthesis, they are grouped under fungi, though they have what? Cell wall, okay, they do not undergo photosynthesis. And we know that animals, they do not have any cell wall, they do not have any cell wall, they cannot synthesize their own food, that's why they depend upon others for food, and they do not have any cell wall. Okay, so this was the classification. Okay, this was the classification. Hope you have understood. In next class we will discuss about kingdom Plantae. Okay, thank you children, have a nice day.